afternoon, this is Derek Chamblee, broadcasting from Chamblee, Atlanta, the next great American city. Battleground Zero, the epicenter of the 2017 civil defense of the United States of America. Beautiful day today in Chamblee, Atlanta. It's winding up on 4:30 Sunday, July 23rd, 2017, and we've got another edition of Cyber Circle Time, and this one comes from, we're going to reference Wikipedia, the title, Emperor. It's very interesting. Our current president, following his path, Trump path, Napoleon, Emperor of the American people. At any rate, interesting, some of his comments in the New York Times article covered by most of the media outlets as follow-ups about Napoleon and his recent meeting with the president of France, and some interesting comments that our current president Donald Trump said about Napoleon and history and whatnot. In a follow-up, people were wondering if he really knew the history. At any rate, the breaking articles about one of the president's tweets discussing, well, basically he's saying we all know that he has the power to pardon. So there shouldn't be a controversy with that. Now, just on one of the particular Sunday talk news shows, one of the president's lawyers, Jay Sekulow, was saying something to the effect that we haven't discussed pardons. And, you know, another point that comes out is basically that a president can grant clemency or a pardon even before one is charged with a crime. So it's an interesting examination of the powers of the presidency and what is connected with amnesty or a pardon. For instance, one of the first executive actions of our former president, Jimmy Carter, was to grant amnesty, or in essence a pardon, to all of the Vietnam war resistors, some of whom had left the country for places like Canada. And raging in the immigration debate is what's called amnesty for those particular illegal immigrants that have businesses, jobs, families, and have been well adjusted for many years in the United States, to give them amnesty. At any rate, the president makes quite a few references to the American people, and it reminds you of our former president, Richard Nixon, when he would go on broadcast to convince the American people that he was not a crook. And that was when investigations of his particular finances came up, very similar to the investigations right now on the finances of ongoing investigation, not just new investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. This is an ongoing thing, even dating back to the campaign, the release of the current president's taxes, or tax reports, returns, and to find out the full extent of his empire, the Trump brand, the Trump empire. Hardly any question that he has built this particular empire, which is worldwide, and President Trump made a comment about at some point. It's basically just good, not to quote him exactly, it's good business. To do business with Russia is good business. As Russia emerged from what was known as the Soviet Union, everybody knows that the particular regime of our current president of Russia, their current president, V. Putin, is basically kind of robber baron, capitalist, favoring, bringing the former Soviet Union into the world economic system, and the way to do that is to elevate the very rich, kind of black market kind of thing, of course, follow their path, laundering money. And this historically has been a path of the so-called robber barons in the United States of America. So, once again, we fully expect that Special Counsel Robert Mueller will exonerate President Trump of collusion with Russia. Interesting comment coming from one of the Sunday news shows, the new head of press communications, White House communications, press communications, was saying something to the effect that President Trump still is not sure of whether or not there was interference in the election by Russia. And once again, we want to steer you back to the origin of the leaks, the hackers, the dirty tricks, vote flipping, and election rigging and election fix. Jeb Bush led anti-Trump Republicans that were never Clinton, that became never Trump, that made a deal with Trump to give him the nomination just before the convention so they could all become never Clinton again. And so there should be more concern about the collusion and election fraud, really, and election monitoring of what occurred, especially in Florida, as we mentioned before, and in Wisconsin, the flipping of votes that delivered those two states in the Electoral College for Donald Trump, candidate Donald Trump. And without those two states, of course, we'll remind you that H. Clinton would have won a narrow victory in the Electoral College. And so really, this thing will get sorted out. We fully expect Special Counsel, again, Robert Mueller, to justify former FBI Director James Comey and explore once again the whole H. Clinton email controversy and raiding her home, at intervening in the 2016 presidential campaign on the part of the former FBI director, and doing it again and again and again. In fact, just a few days before the vote in November, and we fully expect the Special Counsel Robert Mueller to justify the actions of former FBI Director James Comey, and in essence, protect the anti-Trump Republicans, and in essence, lay the foundation for it's not obstruction of justice, the particular meetings that and influence that our current president attempted to exert and continues to on the Department of Justice. Once again, we fully expect at some point our current president will accept the recusal as resignation of our current Attorney General, and get a new Attorney General that he can really consult with and trust, and straighten out the Department of Justice. And over the weekend, Saturday, New York Times broke an article they're writing along with ICE officials in Los Angeles, how they were taking people out of households that were really not their targets, but they were still illegal immigrants, and taking them into custody, detaining them, and whatnot. And so the whole story of the super feds continues. And the interesting thing featured in that article in the New York Times was that they said the increase in arresting, detaining, setting up hearings for deportation, whatever, in Los Angeles was only, they said, only up 17%, which is lower than in most of the places in the country. And so we're going to Wikipedia today. Just Google the word emperor and click on to Wikipedia's. We'll start from the top. An emperor is a monarch, usually the sovereign ruler of an empire or another type of imperial realm. And we'll skip down a little bit. The Emperor of Japan is the only currently reigning monarch whose title is translated into English as emperor. Both kings and emperors are monarchs, but emperor is considered a higher title. And the interesting thing is when you go to the story of Napoleon. He became, in 1804, the Emperor of the French. Not the Emperor King of France, but the Emperor of France. Not the Emperor of France, excuse me. The Emperor of the French people. And that meant all over the world, in more than one nation, in more than one place, according as the French had holdings and colonies and whatnot throughout the earth. And at any rate, this was to preserve the pretense of the Republic, the French Republic, in the throes of the French Revolution, to maintain that this is a republic, and the difference is that the Emperor of the French has subjects, it's true, but they are subjects as equal citizens. This is Derek Chamblee, broadcasting from Chamblee, Atlanta. Trump path. Napoleon, Emperor of the American people. Thank you very much.